Language policy dimensions. Now, going into more detail, let's see what are the different dimensions within language policy, that is, what is involved when language policies are made. Now, we need to remember this whole field of language policy actually evolved when countries were decolonized, and there was felt to be a need to sort of create a solidarity among the groups of people who had now come together as a nation. And for that, language was taken up as a symbol of a single national identity. And we have this example of France and Russia, Pakistan itself, and we can see that this is how things were going on. So the whole point is that language policy, or by making a language policy, it is believed that language-based problems, especially in a multilingual context, become easy to resolve because the different functions are allocated to different languages, and then people can actually go about learning those languages. And if those languages do not have currently the kind of vocabulary that allows them to deal with those functions, then if we modernize the language, then it might help resolve the country's problems in terms of creating greater efficiency. Because for any efficiency, economic or social or access to resources, we need to have languages that are mutually intelligible. We need to be able to understand each other. Now, coming to the technical part, there are 3 dimensions of language policy enterprise on which a lot of researchers agree. Number 1 is corpus planning, number 2 is status planning, and number 3 is acquisition planning. Now, what do we mean by corpus planning? By corpus planning, we mean changing the form of language. Like, for instance, after Pakistan came into being, especially a whole related to Bengali language, a whole set of corpus planning came to be when Sanskrit words were replaced by Persian and Arabic words, because that vocabulary was seen as more related to a Muslim identity, and that Muslim identity linked up with the Pakistani identity. So changing the form of language, standardizing language forms, that is, deciding that among the different varieties of language, among the different accents in which, for instance, Urdu is spoken, which form is to be considered the standard language, or the one that will be used in schools, in government, and which is the one that will be taught to the children. Graphization, that is writing. So how would a language be written if you are including new languages? Or for instance, if you are using a different kind of vocabulary, that is one thing. Think of Urdu and Hindi. When Urdu and Hindi are spoken, you can see very much that this is in mutually intelligible. It is even argued by Dr. Tariq Rahman again that these are 2 languages are actually one language, but through standardization process, through corpus planning, the script of the language is now different. The vocabulary now that those languages use are also different. So modernization, that is adding new vocabulary, that is also a part of the corpus planning. Then we come to another dimension of language policy, that is status planning. So status planning would mean where would this language be used as a national language or as an official language, and what will be the role of other languages if this is being done in a multilingual context. So it can also be that through status planning you try to readjust languages in terms of their prestige. You try to make sure that one language is used rather than the other language is used. And this is actually about ascribing different functions to different languages. So we decide which language will be used for the government work, which languages will be used as a medium of instruction, which languages will be taught in schools. These are all about status planning. Then the question might come, who are the different actors in language policy or in planning who design everything and who are involved in this process? These can be individuals at times. So there can be a bottom-up thing also where individuals work for the restoration of Hebrew, for instance, as it happened in Israel. More often than not, these are governments, but there are also other communities. If they are working for the revitalization of their languages, these can be non-government organizations also. And at times, you also sort of affiliate with other international institutions and organizations. For instance, British Council, for taking the example of Pakistan, when it was decided that English will be used as a medium of instruction at a certain level in government schools, then you needed to train the teachers in English language skills. And you have this affiliation with the British Council, which is working with different provincial governments to do exactly that. Now, the third dimension of language policy, as we said, is acquisition planning. In acquisition planning, we decide how will people learn that language. So if a language is to be maintained and given a certain kind of status, we need to decide who will learn that language, how will we develop learning opportunities, will it be taught at university level or will it be taught at schools? Will it be taught at all levels in the school or will it be taught at a certain specific level within a certain kind of school? Will it be taught across private and public sector, or will the choice of languages in education left to the private schools and we will only concentrate on the public schools? And what are the other opportunities that might be offered? For an example regarding other opportunities, think about the CPAC project that is coming up, and the government of Punjab is sending so many people to learn Chinese in China. Not only that, several universities have opened up departments which are actually now teaching Chinese. So this is what is meant by acquisition planning.